Welcome back to the PI show. Before the break, we were discussing a jury trial in Victoria that sort of went against the plaintiff. The next case we're going to discuss is a jury trial in New South Wales. And again, interesting case.
I thought they abolished jury trials in New South Wales.
They have now, but this is a little while ago. And interesting case in the sense that the jury was asked 3 questions. And the first question, what happened was the plaintiff was employed by Hoyts, and he was there to check damage in a cinema complex, check damages in a toilet. He went into a toilet, the cleaners had been there, there was no sign, he slipped over, fell and damaged his back.
It was a wet floor.
It was a wet floor, he slipped over, fell, no sign, he sued Hoyts. And he said, there's no proper system of cleaning no signs. So, then it went before a jury, and the jury was asked, were Hoyts negligent?
The employer.
The employer. And the jury said yes. Secondly, they said, was the plaintiff
responsible?
Was there contributory negligence by the plaintiff? Was the plaintiff at fault?
Yes.
The jury said yes. The judge said, how much was the plaintiff at fault? They said 100%.
Which is bizarre.
So the third question was, what are the damages? And they awarded $38, which was the cost of going to see the doctor on the day that he fell. That was the expense of the medical expense of this poor person who saw the doctor. So
it's a totally absurd result, Harry, because on that reading, they shouldn't have awarded him anything because they've said there's fault, but he's 100% to blame. Why should he get the $38? He shouldn't get anything. But it's silly. The whole thing's silly.
And what happened after that? So and the jury was dismissed. The person, in effect, lost the case. I think costs awarded against him because, he wouldn't have met a threshold.
It went on appeal, and the appeal court said that the matter should be retried.
Oh, I'm not sure about that.
I think they did.
No, the High Court said that.
Did they?
Yep. Court of Appeal said...
What did the Court of Appeal say?
Court of Appeal said the verdict was safe.
Safe?
It's unbelievable. And then it went to the High Court. And the High Court said you can't have the employer being at fault
and then 100%.
The injured party being 100% contributory negligence. They don't.
It's inconsistent.
It's inconsistent, and the court ultimately said, "Look, there's got to be a retrial." But the jury just got it wrong.
Well, see, what I'm not sure about, was this guy a cleaner or not?
No, he wasn't.
Because
wasn't a cleaner.
And he's going to inspect what? I'm not really sure what.
No, he's going to inspect any damage. Making sure the toilets were not damaged.
So
cinema complex. Might be looking for. People take drugs and all sorts of things.
Why wouldn't he reasonably expect there to be a sign to say the floor's wet if it's been mopped? The average person, if you go to the pictures and they've mopped the toilets...
There should be a sign.
You generally see signs saying, be careful, wet floor.
So he could have sued Hoyts and the cleaner, or just Hoyts?
And maybe the cleaner's employed by Hoyts, Harry. That's why the decision was made not to sue the cleaner.
Yeah, could have been.
Yeah. I think it's a ridiculous decision. But
it took him going to the High Court of Australia.
2 courts.
To overturn the decision, and the High Court ultimately said retrial and back to square one.
So he starts from fresh again.
So
before a jury or a judge?
It probably went back to a jury, I would say.
Well, Harry, this raises that debate we had a while ago about judges as opposed to juries. But then again, the system's not infallible, notwithstanding whether it's a jury or a judge, because we'll talk about another case in due course about there was an Aboriginal fellow who got run over deliberately in South Australia. And what did the judge do in that one, Harry? This is that Aboriginal bloke that was just standing there and the cars just bowled him over.
Oh, yeah, the car deliberately went into a group of Aboriginals, and one was seriously injured.
What did he get?
But a minuscule verdict, because the judge said the Aboriginal, it was a young boy, probably in his early 20s, and the judge said that he wouldn't have worked. He was sort of
He discriminated against him.
yeah. It was a sort of very it was a very bad verdict.
So the debate about juries and judges,
Yeah,
you've still got issues, haven't you?
Yeah.
Although on balance as a plaintiff lawyer, you'd be almost...
You prefer a judge.
That judge, in that case, a girl like where he said, you know, you're almost professionally negligent if you ask for a jury.
You prefer a judge.
Yeah,
You prefer a judge.
I think so.
In most cases, prefer a judge. But you're involved in a case where the jury said someone was 50% to blame.
No,
and,
actually 90%.
Well, sorry, 90% to blame.
Yeah, that was absolutely outrageous.
And that, it was a jury verdict, and the jury said the plaintiff was 90% to blame. It went to a court of appeal.
I went to the Court of Appeal and they said 50-50 was the correct result. I thought that was a bit harsh too.
It was.
I would have thought that, you know, maybe 80-20 or even, I don't even know why my client did anything wrong in that case. You know, it's one case that haunts me after many years of practice, Harry. So what do? You try and move on, but...
It was a sad case. The next case we've got is someone working on a building site who was a form worker, and he was working on a Sydney high-rise. He was there to erect the formwork,
So
and he was on, I think, the 8th or 9th floor, and the formwork goes up in stages. They pour concrete into the formwork. There was a scaffold. He was walking around the scaffold. He went round a corner, and there was a sort of a bar protruding.
He struck his head on it.
Struck his head.
And knocked him back.
Fell over and had pretty nasty neck injuries as a result of hitting his head. And he ended up suing his employer, who was a formwork company, the scaffold company, who, you know, shouldn't have had this bar protruding, and he sued the main contractor.
The head contractor, yeah, Australand.
How's that possible? Who's to blame?
Well, I mean, Australand's got control of the site, so they've got to ensure that the place is safe in general. The scaffolding company's got to ensure that their scaffolds are safe, and the employer's got a non-delegable duty of care to its workers to ensure that the site is safe.
But I think the employer somehow got out of the claim. I know you.
I don't understand how.
You don't understand how.
But I think.
But he was a 60-year-old building worker. What did the court award?
He got a lot of money, Harry. I mean, he was 60, and realistically, probably would have worked another 5 to 10 years. It's hard to say.
Wasn't the evidence he was going to work till 68?
68, yeah.
I mean, there are very few 68-year-old building workers. Believe me.
I think that's right too.
And the court accepted it, and he was awarded $601,000.
It's a lot of money.
So, you know, it was a sort of substantial result, and you know, there's a lot of arguments about who was to blame, whether the main builder was to blame or the scaffold company or both.
Well, I think the majority of the fault rested with the scaffold company.
But that's all we've got time for. We'll be back after the break with some more cases.